is the Jeep Gladiator Mojave edition. The Jeep Gladiator is Jeep's Wrangler-based pickup truck. Something a lot of people, including myself, have wanted to see for a very long time. This is the first pickup truck Jeep has manufactured since the old Comanche Cherokee-based pickup truck that ended production in 1992. Up until now, there were various companies that would do conversions of your regular Jeep Wranglers to pickup trucks, and there was a Gladiator teased several years ago as a concept, but this is what ended up happening. 2020 was the first year that this was made, and just looking around, driving around town, you can see it is a hit. People are really loving these things. If you've seen these around town, you want to know what they're all about, you definitely come to the right place. We're going to check this thing out today. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want one. Before we get started, huge shout out, huge thanks to Hepperly Auto Sales in Lenoir City, Tennessee for lending me this vehicle to review today. We've done business with these folks for several years. They've got a great selection of cars, trucks, SUVs across 3 dealerships, soon to be 4 here in East Tennessee. So go check them out in the description box below. Let's go ahead and start where all the business takes place, and that's under the hood of this thing. So we're gonna undo these latches on the side of the hood, just like Jeeps have always done. These are just slightly updated. We're gonna pull up, trip the latch, and on this one, your hood prop is located on the underside of the hood. And under this hood, you have the Chrysler V6, the 3.6 liter V6 Pentastar engine, producing 285 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. Now these are mated to either an 8-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual, which this one is properly equipped with. Now I don't think this intake is stock. This is an S&B air filter and intake. I don't believe that is stock. However, it's a pretty potent powertrain. Chrysler puts these in pretty much everything that has a V6. Our 2015 Town & Country had it, and it was actually a pretty good engine. I've heard things about Chrysler reliability, but from our experience with one of these engines, it was actually very good. Now let's talk about the outside styling of this car. Now this is actually a pretty good looking vehicle. I mean, and it's still very, very Jeep. So here's the front end. You got this this nice hood with the intake on the top of it on the Mojave edition. Now if you step up to the Rubicon, you get a completely different hood. Looks way cooler. Here is our traditional Jeep grille, but you're going to see there's no word Jeep on the front of this. Now, I remember back to when I watched a Doug DeMuro review about the Jeep Wrangler of this generation. And he said that Jeep told him that Jeep is not printed on this car because the grille is the logo. It's so iconic, it's so recognizable, there's absolutely no need to print Jeep on the front of this vehicle. And they're right. Looking at the headlights, these are your halogen incandescent headlights. You could get them optioned with LEDs all around, including here on the fenders for these signals and markers. However, this has incandescents. Neat Easter egg in the headlight though, this cover over the bulb is a Jeep grille, which is a very cool look as well. Come down here, you have a nice robust looking bumper. Now this is a plastic bumper. If you upgrade to the Rubicon, it is full steel and it is capable of taking a winch. In the bumper, we do have our incandescent fog lights. Again, if you option LEDs, you can have those as well. I do like the tow hooks being an orange, nice accent, looks really cool on this thing. Come around the side, we do have these 17-inch wheels. These are 33s, 33s tires on them. From what I understand, these wheels are a bit stronger than your Wrangler wheels because this thing is a truck, so you're going to be towing and pulling with it. Here on the hood, you do have your Mojave graphic because again, this is the Mojave trim. Your desert rated badge here, and you got your Jeep logo outlined in the orange, which you're going to see in a lot of places on this Mojave truck. Like the gray color on this thing, very nice. It's not quite like the lead foot of Ford's, but it's still a good looking gray color. Now here we do have a 5-foot bed. That's all you're going to get on the Gladiator. You only get a 4-door. There's no such thing as a 2-door or an extended cab. It is only 4 doors for your Gladiators. Around back, we do have LED taillights, and you can see it's kind of interesting how they light up. Now these are not the only versions you can get. They do have incandescent lights, but these LEDs are the best looking option, I think. But you can see your tail light is just this rim here of red, and then your brakes and signals are these upper and lower bright parts, the ones flashing, and then you got your reverses in the center there. Coming across, we have our third brake light on the tailgate, which is something we haven't seen since the first generation Dodge Dakota, which of course I own. They do this because that top is removable, so you got to have your third brake light somewhere. Down here again, you get Jeep outlined in orange, and you get your backup camera. Further down, here's your rear bumper with your orange tow hooks. Again, nice contrast, looks very, very good. Also in the rear bumper, you have factory trailer connectors. So you have a 4-pin up here and a 7-pin right here, so you can connect any type of trailer. And here's the hitch. This thing claims a roughly 4,000 pound towing capacity, so not exactly a weakling either. Go back to the bed to talk about payload. Now this vehicle does have an 1,800 pound payload, so you can carry a reasonable amount of things in here. Now we're going to go ahead and open the tailgate up as well. This is a locking tailgate, which is actually handy because this is available with a factory roll-up tonneau cover that is locked in place when you close the tailgate. So you lock this and your back of your truck is fully closed up. Drop your tailgate, it comes down relatively smoothly. It doesn't thud like old pickup trucks. That's very, very nice. Over here in the bed, now this bed is fully spray and bed lined. I assume this is factory, you can get it that way. Over here, this little spot here would house an optional power port, so your household style port. So, you know, if you wanted to go camping and mix up some margaritas or something, you could have a power port back there. You do have bed lights back here. Those mainly open when you open the doors or turn on the cabin lights. Once again, very nice to have for nighttime use. At the front of the bed, you can see right here, looks like tire tracks imprinted into the metal, which is kind of cool. These are supposed to mimic dirt bike tires. So your Jeep claims that you can put 2 of the majority of dirt bikes in the back of this truck and close the tailgate, no problem. Don't know how true that is. I won't be testing that. I don't have any bikes, but still very cool. You also have a couple of tie downs back here, one on each side for securing your load. Back here you have 2 that are more fixed and don't rotate. Once again, great for load security. Another interesting feature in the bed, right here you see these little circular deals right here. They got this little notch sticking out. If you pull the tailgate up a bit and then put your tailgate straps behind those way back in there and let it go, now your tailgate is up at an angle. So if you got something in there, you don't want, it's a little bit too long to close the gate, but you still don't want it sliding out, you can put this up just enough to keep that from happening. And of course, to return to normal, just pick her up and drop it down, and then your tailgate closes just like normal. While we're outside, let's talk suspension. You do have Fox Racing shocks, or at least Fox off-road shocks, I should say, with a separate reservoir on all 4 corners. Now, I'm not certain if these are standard or optional on the Mojave. They are standard on your Rubicon. These are very nice, you know, once again, increasing your off-road capability just that much more. You also have factory rock slider rails down the length of the cab, and of course into right to the rear tire. Now, interestingly, if you did get the Rubicon, it would come with additional sliders at the back of the bed. The reason being is because this is not a regular Jeep Wrangler. In a regular Jeep Wrangler, the back of your wheel is at the back of the vehicle. But this is a pickup truck, so you got a little more here. So your departure angle coming down a slope is not going to be as nice as a typical Jeep Wrangler. So they put those there, so if you do take on a little bit too much of a slope, it won't damage a bunch of stuff. Now, before we take on the inside of the cabin, I want to talk about the outside. Now, looking at these back doors, they look a little bit strange. And that is because those are your standard Jeep Wrangler doors. The reason they do this is because, well, this is basically a Wrangler from this point forward. And it's cheaper and easier just to stick these doors on instead of making doors that are just for the Gladiator. That way, if it does get damaged, they can just get a Jeep Wrangler door and put it on this truck, which obviously it cuts cost for them manufacturing it. But if you think about it, it's also going to cut down the cost for repairs should this get damaged, and they, you know, so they don't have to track down a specialty door for the Gladiator that's going to be more expensive, lower production than just having a typical Wrangler door, which there's literally millions of. Kind of a smart idea, actually. Now let's talk about this top. Now this is a color matched hard top. Now you can get this non-color matched, I assume, but you can also get a soft top, which is supposedly quite easy to remove. Now this looks better, I think, this hardtop, but it is completely removable. Now if we go inside, we look up above the driver and passenger in the front, we see there's these two panels that have latches on them. Now these are the easiest to remove things. So if we just pull these latches, 1, 2, 3, and we pull this one right here, this panel can be completely removed from the truck. Just up and pull it out, and you can remove it. Repeat that process on the driver's side, and you have a full open experience in the front of the truck. Now, the rear panel is a bit more tricky, because the rear panel, you're gonna have a bunch of bolts and stuff you gotta remove. It's not particularly hard, but it is not as easy as the fronts. Some of those bolts include this one right here on each side, and amongst others. And there is this panel right here that you have to pull out and disconnect your rear defroster, because this has a glass window with defroster grids in it. Cool that you can have a glass window and still a removable hardtop. But now you're thinking, do I have to carry a bunch of tools around every time I might possibly want to remove the roof? Maybe not, because your Jeep Gladiator includes this pouch with all the tools you're going to need to remove the roof, the doors, and the windshield, or at least to drop it down. These 4 tools are all you need to do all of that. And it even comes with a little instruction booklet deal up in there, so you know exactly how to do it. Full color, full of pictures. It comes with these. So obviously, if you ever sell it, please make sure it's there. Or if you buy one, make sure it's there, because, I mean, come on, it's a Jeep pouch with tools in it. And once again, the doors are removable, all 4 doors, easy to do, except that you do have to disconnect the electrical that goes to your power windows and your locks, which behind this panel is where that's going to be located. Very easy to get to. You don't have to worry about anything. Pull it off, disconnect it, you can pull the doors up. Now interestingly, the doors are actually designed with a handle right here, which Jeep says is where you're supposed to lift from. All right, now that the roof's off, we're actually going to make our way into this truck now. So looking at the door sill as we go in, we do have this nice door sill that says since 1941. You know, because that's as long as the Jeeps have been in production. Really cool. Now once again on your door panel, you do have power window, power mirrors, and power locks integrated into the door. But you're probably going to ask, where are the power window switches? I don't see a crank for manuals, so they must be power. Where is it? Those are located here below the climate controls. These are the switches for all 4 windows, as well as your window lockout, or you can unlock it. These are here to make sure there's less controls in the doors. You still have your lock controls, you still have your mirror controls, but these are just one less thing that has to be put in all 4 doors. Kind of cool to see it. It's all right here, it's all centralized. Oh, it's not a bad idea, actually. As far as what you see sitting behind the wheel before we fire it up, now you do have your more orange accents throughout this entire interior. So you see some orange stitching on the door. You have it all across the dash right here, orange stitching. You do have a nice little tray up here for sticking stuff in. That's nice to see as well. Your orange stitching continues onto the steering wheel. And this is actually a nice steering wheel. I do like this wheel a lot. You get orange accents around your climate vents, all 4 of them up front. You get orange stitching on your gear shift as well as your 4-wheel drive selector. You get more of the same stitching on your center console lid, on your bucket seats as well, front and back. And on the front seats, you get the Mojave embroidered into the seat back, again in orange. As you can tell, orange is the Mojave color, apparently. Looking at our steering wheel, we do have an array of controls. Here's the one for your center screen in the gauge cluster. Here's your phone controls. And this truck does have adaptive cruise control. It's in a 4-wheel drive off-roader Jeep. That's really cool. Left side of the wheel, you have your typical headlight controls and all this other stuff. Interestingly, you have speaker grills in the bottom of the dash on both sides. Once again, less stuff to put in the door, keeps the door from weight. It takes a little bit of weight off the door, takes some stuff out of the door, and puts it here. Now, the more obvious reason why these are here is because, well, if you take your doors off, then you don't have sound. With them in the dash, you're going to have stereo. You're going to be able to listen to your music even without the doors. Very smart idea there as well. On the other side of the steering wheel, we have our start-stop button. Now, interestingly, this is not one that you just push and release. This one actually does have to be held down in order to start the engine. Not sure why they did that. Not all Chrysler stuff has this, because once again, we've owned a Chrysler product, a 15 Town & Country, and that one, all you had to do is click it, just like most start-stop buttons. Kind of odd to me, but you know, whatever. coming across, you do have some stereo controls right here. Here's your volume tuner as well as your power button and your station tuner knob as well. The rest of the stuff is mostly climate controls. You have dual zone. Here's your fan speed and your directionals. Now, interestingly, Jeep made sure that when they made some of these buttons, like this recirculating air button, that it was an actual Jeep depicted on the button, not just a regular car. Now that's kind of cool. Some other things, here's your parking sensors, screen off if you want to turn off the distraction or maybe clean it. Auto start stop off because you want that crap off all the time. Down below we do have a 12-volt round DC port. Once again, there's our window controls, and here's some media ports. So you do have an aux port as well as a USB A and C down here as well. Down further, here's our four-wheel drive locking diff control. Now this is the Mojave edition, so it only has a rear locker. If you step up to your Rubicon, you're going to get front and rear. You can flip up for both, down for rear only. Obviously this one only has the rear. This does also have an off-road plus mode as well. Now we push the off-road plus button. Here it shows in our gauge cluster, it shows that it's on, and there it's active. I'm not sure exactly what four-wheel drive plus does. In your Rubicon it gives a lot of different options, but you do have that for some more off-road capabilities. Now it is worth noting that you must have the transfer case in four-wheel drive in order to activate off-road plus. It absolutely will not let you turn it on otherwise. Another feature that this does not have, that the Rubicon can have, is an off-road cruise, which in 4-low at 5 miles an hour or less will keep you at a continuous crawling speed, just to kind of assist you in some off-road low speed driving. Now to the right of that, this little storage cubby here, you would have some separate upfitter switches, some auxiliary switches here for wiring and light. However, this one's not going to have it. Working our way back from the center stack, here we do have our manual gear shift lever. This is properly equipped 6-speed manual. You can also get this as an 8-speed automatic, but who wants that? Here's your 4-wheel drive control. It is a lever. It is not a knob. It is not buttons. It is a lever, like old school stuff. That is nice. Also a manual lever based parking brake instead of a button. Back here are dual cup holders, and between them is a place you can stick your smartphone. How you like that? It's not a wireless charging pad, but it's a handy place to put your phone. Beyond that, we pull this up. Here's our center console. You have 2 levels of storage. This one up here is kind of shallow, but if we drop that and pull the other lever, you get a bit deeper down here, more storage, and another USB A port down here as well. Very nice in there. Coming over to the passenger side of the dash, you do have your locking glove box. We pull that down and pull out this green pouch that looks like an off-road relief or topography map. This is the pouch that contains your user manuals and such. That's a really cool touch. You know, very Jeepy in a Jeep. Imagine that. Now, it's not a very big glove box by any means. This is not a big glove box, and I did not stick that stuff in there right. But it's enough to hold some things. Of course, with your manual in there, some paperwork, and your top tools, you're pretty much almost maxed out. All right, going back up to the gauge cluster, if we start the truck, watch this little Jeep drive across the bottom of the screen. Isn't that something? That's another little Easter egg you get in your gauge cluster. Now, before we get into the screen, we'll go over here real quick. Park sense is off for some reason. Let's go ahead and fix that. That's better. Now here's your tachometer with a lot of your lights in, and here is a permanent 4-wheel drive indicator to tell you where your transfer case is. That's kind of cool to have right there. And on the other side is just your typical speedometer. Goes up to 120 miles an hour. Don't know if we want to try that or not. Now your gauge cluster screen is pretty neat. You have digital readouts of your temp as well as your fuel level, and several display options in the middle. So here, of course, we have our tire pressure. If we scroll through here, we're going to get cool stuff like our off-road modes, our off-road drivetrain status. And this is cool in that when you turn the wheel, it will actually show you the degrees to which your wheel is turned, and the wheels turn with it in both directions. Nice, cool little feature right there. It also shows you that you're in neutral and all that good stuff. Now if we click down here from there, it tells your adaptive cruise is off. Here is your fuel economy and range displayed right there. Your trip meters, start stop status, your radio, if there's any error messages or whatever displaying, You have a digital speedometer. You can change it between miles an hour and kilometers, and back to tire pressure. Now here from the tire pressure status screen, if you click over, you're gonna get some readouts. So here's your coolant temp, oil temp, your oil pressure, your oil life, your battery voltage, and back to tire pressure. Now when you've got the drivetrain status displayed, if you click over one, you're gonna get your roll and pitch information to see, you know, to the degrees to which your truck is tipping forward or backwards or left or right. Now here is our center infotainment screen. Now this is not a large screen, but that's okay. You can see here it's surrounded by this rubbery material. It kind of sticks out. Now this is kind of cool because this is a protective feature. This is going to make it so that you can take your car or your Jeep off-road. If any water, mud, dirt, whatever happens to get on here, it's sealed. It's not going to get in there and damage it, which obviously would be terrible. Now this screen is actually relatively responsive to your touch. It's not perfect, but it's relatively quick. You see it pulls things up. That was not exactly quick, but that disappeared very well. So here's your radio. It's just your radio settings. That's all that is. We go into media, cancel. It's going to give you options to connect different types of devices. Phone settings. Here's all your phone stuff. Obviously I don't have a phone connected, so I can't really play around in this. App screen, here's all your different apps you get in here. So here's again your audio settings. You can adjust your balance, fade, equalizer, all that cool stuff. Compass, you do have a compass on this thing, which again, very nice. Phone, radio, backup cam, we can turn that on manually, and this is the rear. Now we can also zoom that in if you're hitching a trailer up. I said zoom, apparently it doesn't want me to zoom. You do have guidelines with trajectory, so as you turn your wheels, it'll show you, of course, which way you're going to go. And interestingly, you can see the orange tow hooks in the back in your backup camera. I think that's kind of a cool view. Let's click out of that. Go into controls here. Now this has your backup cam. Now this does not, one thing this does not have is a front-facing camera. That is an option that you can buy. You can definitely get it on the Rubicon. Otherwise it is an option. You do have settings for your backup camera as well. Backing out of that, back to the screen here. Here's your climate controls. You do have some redundant climate controls on the screen as well, although you have hard controls right here, so there's really no need for these at all. Click over there. Here's your settings menu, and this select tire fill alert. So once you go into this, you're allowed to go into, what this is for is if you're off-road, you want to air down and air back up your tires, you can set a PSI level that you want to achieve, and once you achieve that, it will honk the horn for you, so you're not going back and forth constantly between the tire gauge and the air fill or anything like that. It's very easy to fill them right to where you need them to be. Now a lot of these are redundant buttons down here, and you can actually change what shows up down here. So if we take and say let's put the compass down here. We can touch and hold, and it'll allow us to drag this down here to put any combination of these 6 buttons down here that we want. Now we can put it back up here, so you can have anything you want displayed down here constantly. Onto the back seat. Now you do have some interesting netting on the back here. You do have a net storage pocket on the back of both seats. It's kind of cool. Most cars don't have a storage pocket on the back of both, but this one does. You do have climate control vents back here. It's not a separate zone from the front, but you do have some nice climate control vents back here. Down below you got your window switches, because once again the switches aren't on the doors, so also in the back you get them in the center. Below that we raise this up, we get a USB A and C, 2 of each. And down below that we have our household type outlet as well. You also get 2 cup holders back here. Plenty of drinks can go in the back of this vehicle. Up here at our seats, we can pull down this center. You get 2 more cup holders as well. Now if we pick up the seat bottoms here, you're going to find storage. Now this is Mojave, does not have the lockable storage option. You can get that in your Rubicon. You can option that. So if you want more locking ability, you've got that as well. Here behind your storage is another little storage bin, and you can see it's got a bunch of pictures on it. Some of them are bolts. That's because this is where you're going to store all of your bolts and such, from your top, your doors, your windshield, so you don't lose them. When you take them out, put them in here, you'll always be able to find them again. Pop this down, And back here, now you see there is a keyhole here. There's a keyhole here. That's because these seats can be locked into place. So if you have things back behind here, in these nets or whatever, you can lock the seats so they can't be pulled down. Just another level of security in the back of this thing. On the passenger side, we pick up the seat. Your storage continues over here. You've also got your jack and tire tools under the seat. Now, a really cool feature that this vehicle doesn't have, that you can option, although it's a kind of an expensive option relative to other things like it, is behind this seat could have a Jeep branded Bluetooth speaker. Now I remember watching the review of the Rubicon version when it first came out, and there was a Bluetooth speaker back here that charges in its own dock. Now that means it's going to have a separate piece back here that can accommodate that, but you can option that with a Bluetooth speaker. Now in 2022, for the new models, I think it's an over $300 option. I'm assuming it's not for just for the speaker, but probably because they also have to put a different panel back here. But how cool, you can actually have a Bluetooth speaker built into your car. It charges while it's in the dock, and you can just take it wherever you want with you. That's just cool. It's so Jeepy, so adventure. All right, climbing into the back of the Gladiator. Now it is kind of interesting with it being kind of raised up off the ground, and with the shape of the doors, it's kind of a narrow footway in there. Space isn't terrible back here, especially if you got short people up front. It's very usable as a family vehicle, but that's not the intended purpose of it. There are better rear seat situations than pickup trucks. Now, of course, this is going to be more of a mid-size type truck, not a full size, so you kind of expect a little bit of a compromise as far as space back here. But you do have decent headroom because, well, it's a Jeep. Not bad. On this back window, I already talked about it being a glass window with defroster grids, and you can see it does have them. But interestingly, it also has a sliding window in it as well. Nice feature. I love seeing those in trucks. And they've managed to incorporate the defroster grids into the sliding portion as well. So there's no part of the glass that's not going to get defrosted. In the center of the Gladiator, you have this bar that runs from one side to the other, which all your Jeeps have. It has a speaker on each side, so you get plenty of sound. And it's because this is the Gladiator, it's got the fully removable roof. You've got all of your interior overhead lights in this little pod here. So here's all 4 of your reading / map lights, one for each seat. And here's your main interior dome light as well. Kind of a neat incorporation, and it looks kind of cool too, I gotta say. Now I mentioned a couple of Easter eggs in this truck. Some of them being the buttons on the center stack that have the Jeep logo instead of just a car, and as well as a little Jeep that drives across your screen. And of course, also, those headlights have a Jeep grill in them. You only get those on the halogens. But if we look for a couple more Easter eggs, they're not hard to find. In the corner of this windshield, there's a little Jeep, and you can see looks like the original Willys Army Jeeps. Kind of looks like it's driving up the side of the windshield. Very cool. Which means when you break your glass, you want to get a factory piece in order to retain that. Unfortunately, this one is broken. Another very subtle Easter egg is right here in the bed, right here up at the top next to the tailgate, where it has this little heart and it says 419. So what is 419? 419 is the area code in Toledo, Ohio, where these things are manufactured. And another interesting fact, when Jeep launched this, they made 4,190 launch edition trucks. 419. Kind of neat. I'm going to stand here with the phone in hand again because you know I can't remember things. Talk about the Rubicon edition of this. Now this is obviously not the highest trim. Your Rubicon is your highest, your biggest, your baddest trim of this truck. So things that are kind of unique to that truck. Now first of all, you can get a front-facing camera in the grill slats, and that's going to allow you to look over obstacles in front of you. If you can't quite see over the nose where you are, that adds a little bit more confidence out of the trails. Once again, you do get your 2 locking discs instead of 1, as well as a sway bar disconnect. Now, I had to go back in my memory a little bit to when I watched reviews on it. That button below the off-road plus button is going to be your sway bar disconnect. If you had it, this obviously does not have it. Again, you get the different styled hood as well to differentiate it from the others. Fender flares are actually a bit higher, so that you can take off the factory 33s and put on 35s instead if you want to, and it'll just bolt right up. No clearance issues at all. Once again, you do get the steel front bumper, which is capable of holding a winch unlike this. Fox shocks are standards, as well as your additional rock slide on the rear of the bed. Still, well, even though this is not the highest, coolest Rubicon trim, this is a cool truck, and I definitely wouldn't mind having it. Let's go drive. All right, let's take this thing out for a spin. Now, the very first thing I'm seeing with this 6-speed manual is your first couple of gears are actually quite short, which is I don't know, not my, you know, it may or may not be ideal. For off-roading, it's definitely going to be. It's going to keep your speed nice and low and stuff like that. But up on the highway, you're definitely going to get through those first couple of gears really soon. And of course, the aftermarket exhaust that is present on this vehicle will kind of fool me into thinking I've got the engine going too fast. So I have to keep an eye on the tachometer as well. So far, not so bad. I mean, ride quality, it is a Jeep. It's an off-road vehicle. Don't get into this expecting insanely great ride quality. It's not going to be smooth. However, the seats are nice. They're not bad at all. Clutch is nice and easy to operate, at least once you get used to it. If I'd had more time to familiarize myself with this one, it'd be a lot easier, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Now, getting out on the highway, once again, you're going through those first couple of gears rather quickly. Third gear, you're hitting about 30-35 miles an hour. But it's a 6-speed transmission, so you gotta have your gears a little bit closer together than a 5-speed, I reckon. It's actually not too bad of a ride on the highway. It's a Jeep with some off-roady tires, so yeah, you're gonna get some wheel noise. And going around turns, the stability, once again, it's a Jeep. This is a truck, so you know, match your expectations to the vehicle, obviously. But your seating position is nice. You got visibility all the way around. Of course, you got that small windshield in front of you, the Jeep. It's a Jeep. Not too bad. Now, the 0 to 60 claim on this thing is about just over 7 seconds. And that's with the automatic. So you're going to have to expect a little bit less with the manual because no one is just that good. And this isn't a racing transmission. But overall, I do kind of like this truck. And I tell you what, if I could have another car payment, I'd probably get one of these because it's nice. Now, you hear a lot of stuff about the reliability of modern Chryslers and how they're all crap, and I'm sure to an extent, you know, under Fiat ownership, that is somewhat true. You hear about electrical issues, engine issues, that kind of thing. Now, my response to that is, it probably depends on how well a car is taken care of. We had that 2015 Chrysler Town & Country, and of course that's during the time of Fiat Chrysler, and it had the same engine, the 3.6 Pentastar in it. And when that thing finally was totaled, and not even due to an electrical or powertrain, 156,000 miles of engine and transmission were still in perfect shape, and the only reason it had electrical issues was because of the water that got in. In case I piqued your curiosity there, I'll throw a card up right about now to that video, and you'll get to see what happened there. That kind of sucked. All right, y'all, so that's going to do it for this review and drive of the Jeep Gladiator Mojave. And excuse, there's going to be a little traffic noise. We're back at the lot. Anyway, this is a great truck. I really like this. It's a cool truck. I mean, it's cool looking. It's got a lot of neat features. I really enjoyed this thing. And I've wanted to check one of these out ever since Jeep announced it was going to happen. And finally, I got my chance. 2 years later, but I still got my chance, so I'm happy. Very cool truck. And I've hoped that Jeep would make one ever since I first saw the concept that was teased several years earlier before this actual truck became a thing. And so I'm super glad to see this here. If I could have a second car payment, I would probably get one of these because I really did enjoy this. And I hope you did too. I hope you enjoyed the tour of this Jeep Gladiator. I hope it didn't suck too much. And if you've been looking at one of these, I hope to help to inform you and help you maybe make a decision as to whether or not you'd like to have one of these, because I would, I know that much. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, you know what to do. Make sure to go down, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you know when the next videos go up. Also go and follow me over on Facebook and Instagram at that car vlog channel. It's another great way to get notified when things go up, and who knows, I might start posting things up there again. But it's still a great secondary way to get notified of videos. Also, check the description below for a link to a list of cars I'd be interested in reviewing and driving on the channel. And if you have anything you'd be willing to let me review and drive on this channel, hit me up on social media and try to work something out. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to Hepperly Auto Sales of Lenoir City, Tennessee for providing this vehicle for this review today. Go check them out in the description below as well. Link to their website. We purchased 4 cars from them and we love doing business with them. Anyways, thanks y'all again for watching. Have a great day.